Are kids really the future? As the co-founder of a toy business, it's probably not something you'd expect me to say. But if you bear with me, I'll try and explain this. I started our business when I was living in London. I just sold up my previous business, which was a gift business, and I guess I really wanted to start something on my own and be my own boss. When I was in London, I partnered up with a girl, Lucy, and we developed our idea based on the insight that there wasn't really a doll on the market that we felt comfortable buying. A lot of our friends used to use the word a wholesome doll. And in our own circumstances, I guess, when we were purchasing for our nieces and nephews, we didn't feel comfortable gifting any of the products that were currently on the market. So we started to do some research, and my business partner, Lucy, she came across an article by a Dr. Margaret Ashwell. Dr. Ashwell at the time was the head of the British Nutrition Foundation. And in 1986, there was an article in the Times where Dr. Ashwell had done some focus groups with kids, and she'd given a group of them some of the fashion dolls that were on the market, and she did another control group where they weren't. She found that the ones that were playing with the fashion dolls ended up having body image issues. So we contacted Dr. Ashwell, and we found that she connected us to a lot of other experts in the child development sphere, from body image to nutrition to play experts. We then did our own focus groups as well with parents and kids, and we spoke with retailers. And we found that kids, not just were they developing body image issues from the dolls they were playing, but when they were being born, or even slightly afterwards, kids were being given in a particular channel based on a color identity: pink for girls and blue for boys. And we observed, I guess, in retail how that manifests itself. In clothes retail, you had clothes with girls and it said cute and princess, and in boys' clothes it was brave and adventurous. And in retail stores, you had toxic masculinity on the boys' blue aisle, where you had guns and aggression, and on the girls' side you had glitter and pink, and you had princesses. There weren't really many options. We spoke with retailers ourselves, and they were telling us if we were going to launch a new doll, that it had to be 30 centimeters in height, it had to be blister packed, and it had to shout out all of the features of what was contained in the product and have a novelty. In other words, it had to be exactly the same as every other doll that was developed previously. We decided that we had researched the actual category itself, and we found that over 60 years ago, when dolls were first mass-produced, that the average age of the user was 12 years of age. Now, a 12-year-old aspires to be an adult, so the characters that those dolls were based on were anything from 18 years of age up to 35 years of age. However, in that 60-year period, the average age of the user now was 6 years of age, and their aspirational age was 9. So we decided that we were going to base our doll on a child. And immediately, by basing our doll on a 9-year-old child, we were able to focus on childhood. We were able to focus on the things kids wear, what they do, their interests. We were able to focus on educational elements that they were going through in school, but also the childhood issues that they were dealing with. We then spoke with retailers, and we found that because we had developed our own doll that was based on a 9-year-old child, we weren't doing what they had requested from us. So we had to find alternative routes to market. We therefore approached department stores, bookstores, who were looking for our option. And because online retail had now really taken off, we found that we were able to go and communicate directly with consumers. And our product really was working. However, because we had listened to children and we designed our product around what the kids were saying and not what the adults were, or the retailers were saying, we weren't getting those big purchase orders that we could go to investors. So I had to make the decision that I really believed in what we were doing, so I sold my house. That was my house in London. And I decided to move the business back to Donegal, and I was able to get a loan off a government agency here. And I really wanted to create jobs here that, because it was a big unemployment black spot, but also to be able to show people that you can operate a global business from a remote location. After we launched in the second year, I came across a kid called Ali. Ali had a video on YouTube, and since she was 4 years of age, she'd been begging her parents that she wanted to make a robot. And they finally gave in when she was 6 years of age, and she made a robot, and she entered it into the local maker fair where she won first place. And her mum then went home and made a video of her talking about her robot. Her robot had little pulley systems so the fingers could work, but she was basically making it out of cardboard and recycled materials that she found at home. The passion that Ali talked about with her product, and she wanted to teach other kids her age about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths. And here she was, she now has her own YouTube channel called TechniAli Speaking. But Ali, 6 years later now, Ali won the Global Invent It Challenge. It was in the last 10 of Discovery Education's 3M Young Scientist of the Year in America. And she was also named by Teen Vogue as 21 of the most influential kids under 21. Another kid that we came across was Taylor. Taylor she purchased one of our dolls, and she contacted us to say, that she really liked one of our dolls. So we engaged with her. We found out that Taylor was one of the youngest kids ever to go to space camp. She was 9 years of age when the average age is 11. She came back from space camp. She was so motivated by it that she decided to do a fundraiser, and she raised 10 grand for kids locally, disadvantaged kids really, to learn interest in STEM subjects. Taylor goes to schools, speaks in libraries. She gives back to her community. We made an Astro Adventures doll with her, and shortly afterwards, she was invited by the Obamas up to the White House to see a preview, a private screening of a movie called Hidden Figures. She came back from that again, so motivated that she went out and she raised $20,000 for kids in Jacksonville to go and watch this movie. Now, there weren't enough kids in Jacksonville, so she actually went into the other neighboring states, South Carolina and Kentucky. But, and then whatever money she had left, she created her own scholarship to send a kid to space camp, so she's giving back as well. She also, last year, was named by Teen Vogue as 21 under 21. And when she was at the Teen Vogue Summit, she came across a lady called Ava DuVernay. Ava is one of the biggest, she is the biggest, most famous black film director. And she was speaking to Taylor, telling her about her latest movie, which was A Wrinkle in Time. A Wrinkle in Time happened to be Taylor's favorite book when she was a kid. So she went back and she decided to do another fundraiser. She set herself a target of hitting 15,000, and in January we were tweeting online, and she was hoping to get to 7,500 over the weekend. She was at 6,500, and then overnight, J.J. Abrams, the film director, gave her $10,000, so she'd broken her target straight away. The next week, she was invited to the launch of the movie in LA, and Chris Pine, the actor, walked up to her, and he had been speaking to Ava and said, "Listen, Ava's been telling me about your story, and I'd like to help you." He says, "I'd like to match your target." And she had now been at $25,000, so he gave her $25,000. So she's at $50,000. The next week, she was brought on to Good Morning America to tell her story. And who walks on? Only Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey then gives her another $50,000. So she's capped. She's capped now. She's stopped at $100,000, and she's bringing kids to movies all around America. But she's also going to set up her own fund as well to bring more kids like her through the STEM path. Another kid that we work with was called Abigail. Abigail's mom contacted us. She said she had been looking for a doll, and she never felt comfortable giving any of the other ones to her, and she gave it to Abigail, and Abigail now has the whole entire collection. So we found out that Abigail is into astronomy, and our hero is Chris Hadfield. So we developed a doll, Stargazer doll, and Abigail designed everything was in the doll. We then partnered up with the European Space Agency, and we developed content to encourage girls to develop interest in STEM. So we did a collection of famous female astronauts and astronomers, which is inside the pack, and we also taught kids about the solar system. As part of our conversations with the European Space Agency, we just cheekily asked them, what's the chance of sending it up to space, thinking that they'd laugh at us. They said, oh, we'll come back to you. And we never thought anything more of it. But 6 months later, we got a phone call from the Space Agency to say, your doll's actually going up to space as part of British astronaut Tim Peake's mission. And we were gobsmacked, but it actually went up in a rocket a week, on a cargo ship a week before Tim went up. And while it was up there, we were teaching kids about, the different experiments that they were doing up on the space station, but also the normal things, I guess, from how they go to sleep to what they eat to how they go to the toilet. Yeah, it was an amazing opportunity. Another kid, little Hayden here, is actually from Limavady. He's autistic and he's got ADHD. And he was nonverbal before Tim Peake went up to space. And when he seen the rocket taken off, he spoke for the first time. To us, diversity in ethnicity, but also in ability is extremely important. We did a project last year with a cochlear implant. This year, we've got a lot more happening on diversity in ability. There's a guy called Sir Ken Robinson, and he talks about how kids, when they're going to school nowadays, that because of the advancements in technology, the careers that they're studying for will no longer exist whenever they leave. So he recommends that you focus on the 5 C's: collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity, innovation, and compassion. One of the amazing things that's happened since we've started working with kids, and now every product that we do is going to be designed by kids, but they now they talk to each other on social media, and it's an extremely positive environment. They talk to each other about the different opportunities they have. They talk to each other, but they also talk about, they give each other support. Some of them, unfortunately, suffer from racism. Some of them are, their options are challenged because of their gender. Some of them get bullied, but they all support each other. It's an extremely important environment for them, but extremely positive one. As Ali says on her Twitter feed, kids are not the future. We are here now. We are not going to change the world someday. We are already doing it. I hope I've changed your mind on kids are not the future. And for our part, as the King of Sweden just said yesterday, business impacts children, so we must let children impact business. We believe in listening to and empowering kids, so much so that diverse kids with diverse interests now inspire everything we do. Thank you very much for this evening.